Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you live from COG Studios on Thursday, January 23rd, the same day Chicharito is officially introduced to the press at a press conference, makes his first training debut as well. We'll talk all about that, including the tracker that we had going yesterday and the whole arrival from Seville to London and London to LAX and the arrival at LAX and what sort of a fun little disaster that was. But we want to talk about that and all the little things Chicharito here, including the press conference, what he said, and sort of how things are developing with the LA Galaxy's newest striker. To help me do all of that, welcome back to the show, Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, what's up, buddy?
Chicharito.
Oh, there you go.
I love it. Is this new theme music?
This is new theme music.
I was going to say, did we get this cleared?
But this is part of the budget now, apparently.
Perfect.
So.
And you still have Mike Araujo's doing the intro, right?
Yeah. I make
so
him
still not introducing me.
No,
by
still
name?
still not introducing you. Yeah, that's how it works.
We should get him on the phone.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you have his number?
No, he's actually here. I make him come into the studio for every single behind the curtain, like over in the corner of the things. Anyway, just a little bit.
Good to be back. This is exciting times to be an LA Galaxy fan.
It's 2020, right?
It is 2020.
We're excited. We're happy, right? Everything's good.
Everything is good.
Okay.
Cannot complain.
You can't. Are you sure?
Life is good.
Okay. I just wanted to double check. Let's see. Big day today. Press conference for Chicharito. So that was interesting. I'll tell you right now. Holy jeez, there were a lot of people there. In terms of reporters and everything else, that blew anything else I've personally been. I wasn't there whenever David Beckham was announced, but I've pretty much, I think, been there almost every other major signing that the LA Galaxy have had through the years.
I'm going to credit this a little bit to social media because I think now there are a lot more people on social media platforms, so it's a lot easier to get, if you want to know what time they're arriving or we know where they're going to be, getting that information out there is a lot easier nowadays. You're able to get flight tracker information and all of that. So I think, with that elevated sense with a lot more people interacting on social media, I think that has a lot to do with it. Obviously, it's not the only reason. David Beckham being an icon and a big name is going to draw out a lot of people. Chicharito, maybe not at that stature. I think he even mentioned that in the press conference. He may not be at that stature, but in Southern California and being the star power that he has, you knew he was going to bring in a lot of people. It reminded me last season we went to the airport to greet Juninho.
Yes.
A little bit different. Just a little bit different.
There were like 30 or 40 people there.
I was going to say, no offense. Side note.
Yeah.
Do you follow Dude with a Sign on Instagram?
No, I don't.
So it's just a guy who holds up a cardboard sign with different sayings. And one of his sayings is, stop saying no offense before saying something offensive. No offense to Juninho, but he had no entrance like Chicharito. All the supporters who showed up, they showed up in full force. That was awesome to see.
Yeah, it was it was interesting, and certainly whenever you look, here, you talk for a little bit. Talk some more about stuff. This is how the show's going to go off the rails
on
today.
the 1st of November. There was a man. Okay, are we good?
I don't know.
Sounds like it's balanced
I don't
out.
know. It's one of these things that's going to be.
I will say this: there was a tweet that showed Chicharito's wife,
right, Sarah.
Uh-huh. So she was exiting on an opposite end of the terminal,
right? Because
obviously there was madness on one end of the end of the terminal, but where she was exiting, you could hear very clearly the chants that were going on, between Angel City Brigade and everyone who was there and working hard. You could hear it. It sounded like the Diggity. It sounded like Dignity Health Sports Park on game day. At LAX. So that was awesome.
The estimates currently put in somewhere around 1,000 people.
Yeah, seems about right.
Which, if you look at all the things, if you look at sort of all the videos that we got and all of the different things that we saw, it seems pretty accurate. There was a lot of people. We'll talk about it. Let's start at the tracker first.
Okay.
You were talking about social media. Listen, the Galaxy put out his arrival time, as a press release.
And I don't know that they've done that. I mean, they've done it they did it with Juninho. But
sometimes they do it like under the boards. They're sort of like, hey, Josh, this is when he's coming in, or they'll tell the supporters groups, hey, this is when he's coming in.
Or they'll organize, hey, bus trip, things.
That was different. That was the different thing with Zlatan, because Zlatan flew private, basically, from London all the way over to.
I did see that. Why didn't
from Manchester? Manchester.
Yeah, why didn't they coordinate, something like they did for Zlatan? And the truth is, Chicharito is not flying private. He doesnn't have the private jets.
He did fly private. Let's not like completely diss the guy. He flew private from Seville to London Heathrow.
Yeah, because I saw that there were photos of his child on the plane. I was like, that's not the plane that's
that one ain't big enough.
Yeah.
All right, it's gonna have to make a couple stops if it's gonna make it all the way over. No, but I mean, you're right. So they fly privately, and it was something that we knew what the flight was, and we had a good idea about it. So we knew we were going to do another tracker. It was a lot of fun then to be able to do that again. And as Jared Dubois, former co-host, pointed out, anytime the intersections of aviation and soccer sort of cross with me, it's a pretty happy day. I have my pilot's license. I grew up flying, and I love it. And if I could ever afford to do it again, I will absolutely get back there and do it again. But it's a lot of fun. So not only that, but I've flown that trip on that plane before on that airline. So it was British Airways. It was an A380, which is one of the largest passenger airplanes.
See, he's getting excited.
I know
he's turning flushed. He's flushed. He's red.
It's too much fun. So anyway, so you saw that, and you sort of saw them come over the Atlantic and do all that stuff. So it was fun to watch that and be able to track it. And so we basically, and I dedicated myself to doing an update every hour. I set my alarm on my clock and said, okay, every hour, whenever it was in between the long transition of over the Atlantic and over Greenland and coming down into Northeast Canada, and then eventually I think into Montana, and then maybe Wyoming and Utah, and then the Nevada and Arizona border, like right on the border. It's always right on the border.
Yep.
As you come in and approach that, so just south of Las Vegas, really, whenever you come in, and then eventually into California, and then once you hit California, now it's rapid updates, right? It's through the Inland Empire.
Through Pipo Rivera.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was good. My phone autocorrected Pico to Pipo because of course it does. So Pipo Rivera, by the way, if we don't create a shirt that says Pipo Rivera, there's something wrong with us.
I think he's one of the rumored signings.
He very well could be.
If he replaced Pipo Gonzalez, I think fans would be happy.
Yeah, it's fun, but and something we want. But I always think it's interesting. You talk about Los Angeles, and we talk about how big Los Angeles is, and it always strikes me whenever we're following a plane, whenever we're doing that tracker, and you see him come over the Inland Empire. Inland Empire is Galaxy territory. Coming into the heart of the city.
Are we going to have that
conversation? is Galaxy territory? It's the whole time the plane basically hits California all the way through Big Bear.
I was
Galaxy
say,
country,
even Nevada,
Galaxy country,
Galaxy country there as well.
So it's just fun as you sort of see it come down, and then you get into real close to the airport there, and then eventually you're at the airport, and then because I don't know if some of you have checked out my social media and stuff like that.
I was gonna say that's how it was a big day for you, because I'm the Instagram guy.
Yeah.
I'm usually the guy posting on Instagram. So when you are posting stories on the hour, every hour, that's how you know that Josh was excited.
Yeah. So we did that, and then we had the actual. And by the way, we're the only people who had this. We had the actual flight landing.
Say hit the horn. COG exclusive.
Oh, I do have the airport. There we go. COG exclusive there of Chicharitos A380, the British Airways A380 that flew all the way from London Heathrow, about 10 and a half hours, almost 11 hours, whenever you look at it, and landed at LAX. We had actual video of that plane landing on the airport, and nobody else had that.
That's the commitment that you'll get from this podcast.
That's right. That's the kind of craziness you can expect.
That's the kind of psychopath who's into aviation that we have on this side of the microphone.
It is absolutely true. That is how it goes. So you get him there. Now, we saw people start to arrive, and I couldn't go. I have, a 7-week-old still, almost 8-week-old.
Yeah, 7 o'clock is also a tough time, but also the people made it. It's also kind of, if you work a 9 to 5, that's kind of an ideal time to get off of work or head off of work a little bit early and head to the airport. So, obviously people knowing that there was going to be a crowd tried to get there early. And if you follow, Galaxy fans and Galaxy Twitter and people around, you saw it build, which was pretty cool because you saw a few fans there at the beginning, grew a little bit, saw some more flags, and then that crowd, that mass just kept growing and growing until it was essentially a mob by the end of it, which I don't know if we're going to talk about. Length of the appearance.
Yeah.
Let's dive into it.
No,
right?
we do, because I have more information on that too. So
it was basically a peekaboo. Came out. Wasn't able to make it through because of the large masses of fans and supporters there. So I know there's more to that story. Besides,
there's always more to the story.
But it's still impressive. It's almost like you almost wear it as a badge of honor that it was so rowdy and people were so excited that it caused chaos, and it was a bit of a cluster, but that's almost
it was
what
okay.
you
It was
that's
fun.
what you
That's
want.
what you wanted.
That's the party, and I think that's something that's to be said about game day experience as well. There are some days where the score really might not matter because it's about the experience and being there and chanting and supporting, and that's really what it's all about. It's cool that the player's there. That's why you show up, but it's almost like the spectacle outweighs the event. Chicharito walking through a crowd was never going to live up to all the pomp and circumstance that went around it. So
it can't.
It's kind of cool.
It can't. It wouldn't anywhere else either.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. It wouldn't have worked, in Manchester if he tried to do that either. It would have been the same sort of crowd. Which I'm not saying we're trying to emulate what happens all over the rest of the world with this, but with that excitement and with that level of sort of intensity for the passion for the sport, and certainly what you see here in LA, you saw it on display, which was there's 1,000 people waiting for a guy to get off an airplane to welcome him to Los Angeles, who's going to go and play. I mean,
and he's going to get into a car and leave.
This doesn't. Okay, but here's the other thing: is this doesn't happen in any of the other major American sports. Like
that's true.
If somebody trained, I mean,
you
will see people like sort of. You see the Lakers, right?
Yeah,
and they have
LeBron came to town. That was definitely a thing.
There was,
but
a
it's
thing.
more of a tabloid thing. You have your TMZs and your ESPNs. It's a little bit different. Yeah, I don't know that you're going to have the Lakers fans. What was it? Wasn't there a Lakers Reddit meetup and there were like 12 people that showed up? It's a little bit different culture when it comes to supporting your team.
It is. So, but it's just interesting to see that. And, I would say that, if Robbie Keane showed up to the airport now, that type of thing, you would expect.
It'd be different.
It would be different than what he did whenever he showed up. And, different, if Zlatan came, it was different, going the private plane and having people bust in to meet him and seeing that was great, but that was very controlled, right?
Yes.
That was very, okay. That's
and they could control it.
And they could.
It was everything within their own realm. When you're at LAX, you're at Tom Bradley there, there's only so much you could do. You can't control the airport, staff or what they have set up as far as barricading. Like you can't, there are certain things that are out of your control. So I understand, fans being upset that you didn't get a good look at Chicharito possibly, but the Galaxy, that's also not on the Galaxy, I don't think.
No. I mean, you can say it is because they were the ones who said, hey,
they should have flown him private.
This is this is where you guys should go, and they knew they couldn't control that, and the people who are in charge of that really are the airport police there. I think it's the LA County Sheriff that actually has control of the airport there at the airport grounds, and so they're in charge of all that too. So again, it's an interesting sort of dynamic. It's something new. I don't know that it'll ever happen again, just because I'm sure there were people who were not very happy with the fact that 1,000 people showed up, and there were all these things. But
what are you going to do to stop it? If Cristiano Ronaldo arrives in 3 years after Chicharito's I don't think it's stop people who you can say it's
it's an interesting thing. The Galaxy did not put out the information. That's one of the things you might still be able to find out. Now, this one is easier just because, it wasn't. You had to have known that they were going to go to London to be able to come and then be able to trace that backwards and do it. But we had Brittany Campbell, who is one of our photographers, got some of the best video out there and sent it over to us. So we had that on all of our Instagram as well. And so what you have is you have Chicharito, who was supposed to come out the main entrance at one point. And then they move him over to the side entrance because they're trying to sort of be like, okay, how can we get around this crowd a little bit? Because the crowd was gigantic.
And that's also one of my favorite wrinkles is the people who are getting off their international flights. Who knows how long they've been traveling in the air? They walk into a mass of LA Galaxy fans hooting and hollering, and it's like, what is this for? If you have no idea what, you don't follow soccer, you don't know what's going on. You're like, what just happened? What did I walk into? We saw a little bit of it last year with Juninho, so I can imagine it's just amped up the confusion.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, no, it is fun, and so that's sort of where you have it and how you have it. Again, just so many fun issues already.
Want me to sing a song?
Yeah, you should just talk some more. I mean, at this point, that's how it's going to go. But no, I think the video audio kind of got a little crazy and out of hand on this, but basically, you look at what Chicharito was going to do, which was come down that main entrance, and then the fact they move everybody over to the other side. That's again, they were trying to sort of work with what they had. So I talked to some of the Galaxy people and I said, hey, why did he only come out? Because there was a lot of grumbling, and I understand it. You go there and you wait for some 2 or 3 hours for some people,
which is understandable.
And you want to see Chicharito, and you're there to welcome him, and you do it. And the guy comes in and he probably signs stuff for about 30 seconds.
It was less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But that's the cap I was going to put on.
Yeah. And so you have him coming there, and it's one of those crazy sort of things where you say, okay, what are you supposed to do with a player at that point? And so what happened was his security people actually pulled him back. That's what stopped all of that. Was they grabbed him by the shirt and they actually yanked him back, and they were like, no more. We can't. He has 2 security guys there. I think the Galaxy had 1 security guy there. There wasn't enough.
You have to protect your investment at that point.
Yep.
And that was kind of the funny thing on the reverse angle as well. They showed him being pushed in the car, and one of the security guard actually, we closed the door. You could tell it got stuck on his foot. So that made me think, imagine if Chicharito got injured being rushed to his car.
Right. No, I mean,
high ankle sprain from an airport arrival.
It was crazy. And like you said, you had the video basically showing his wife already being loaded into the car beforehand.
Yeah, with the baby. Because I was thinking about that too. As it was happening and as that crowd was building, I'm thinking he has a small child. What is it? 7 months, 9 months?
Yeah, 7 month.
Yeah. So with a young child and a wife and all that noise, how were they going to make that work? But obviously they already had details and a plan in place, and obviously it didn't work out.
Yeah.
For him to greet all the fans, but again, it was about the experience. I'm trying to put the positive twist on this. It's about the experience, and Galaxy fans should be proud of how they showed up to support our new designated player.
Well, Brendan Hannon took to Twitter afterwards, was like, hey, if in order to make it up to you guys, show up to the open training on February 8th.
Yeah, you'll definitely get FaceTime there, and you saw it at the training today. There was a lot more video of him. If you're one who goes to the trainings to try to see the players, that's probably your best opportunity to get some FaceTime with the players. And he was taking his time and taking pictures with fans and signing things. So it's nothing to say that he wasn't willing to sign things, sign autographs, and say hello to the fans. It just seems like it was out of his control again with the security. They have one job, that's to protect Chicharito, and they protected Chicharito. So fair play to them.
They kept him back on that one. Again, it was fun sort of to watch from afar. I know there were people who were frustrated with that, but you're gonna get your time.
And there's also the media. It wasn't just fans. It was the number of media outlets that showed up as well that I think added an interesting wrinkle. I mentioned TMZ earlier when we were talking about LeBron James arriving. When you have someone who's a star in Mexico, we know that down in Mexico they take soccer seriously. So when you have the Mexican media or Spanish-speaking media coming out, there's going to be it's a large contingent of people, and so when they come out, it's not just one camera. It's not a few crews. It's a large number of crews who are going to come out, and when they're all trying to get that I don't know, is this appropriate to say, the money shot of Chicharito coming through, then obviously there's going to be a ruckus and a little bit of chaos. And so that added to a little bit of the issues. And from what I was reading and understanding from people who were there, is that it wasn't the fans who were bum rushing him. It was more the media cameras trying to get that perfect shot of him arriving.
Which again, I mean, you say that whenever you come to LA that you can escape a lot of that, right?
Especially as a soccer player. But I think if you're Ashley Cole, I think you could come here, live in anonymity, unless you're in the know. You're not going to really know, who Ashley Cole is if you see him out at a Starbucks. But Chicharito, with our population in Southern California, he's going to be more recognizable, and he's going to bring a little bit more attention. I don't think he's going to be able to walk around, in anonymity. Words are fun.
Yes.
But he's not going to be able to walk around being unnoticed in Southern California.
Yeah, it's different.
Which is nothing new for him.
It was funny. Somebody, I think it was Kevin who actually told me the story about Steven Gerrard, and he talked about Gerrard, and Gerrard said that whenever he got to L.A., that he was able to go with him and his daughter, and they went down to Santa Monica Pier, and he said it was the first time really since his daughter was born that he was able to go out in public and not get recognized and not do the thing. And you're like, oh, well, how old is your daughter? Like 4 or 5? So he's like, she's 13. Yeah. And so it was 13 years of him being put through this.
I saw Giassi Zardes at the mall.
See? I mean, come on.
He was having a good old time. He's like, darn, someone recognized me. He was probably frustrated.
No, he was excited.
Once I called him out.
He was excited. That's what I remember the first time I ever got recognized for my voice. I was standing in line and they're like, excuse me, are you Josh Guesman? I'm like, yeah, how do you know? Oh, I recognized you by your voice. Was walking on cloud for like the next month. I was like, oh my God, I
got you one better.
Yeah.
The Amazon delivery guy.
I thought we told the story, but you should tell it anyway.
I love telling it.
Yes.
And he's a listener of the show, obviously.
Yes.
So shout out to you. And, drop the package off, say, are you the Hammer? I was like, yes, I am the Hammer. And of course, the kids were like, did they really recognize you? That really happened.
That really happened. And your wife rolled her eyes so
awesome.
hard.
Oh, I'm telling that story to everyone I get a chance to.
I understand.
I was recognized.
I
get recognized more than Steven Gerrard in Southern California.
Well, it's going to be harder for Chicharito, like you pointed out, with the Mexican press, obviously, here in Los Angeles already. And the coverage from them is going to be huge. It's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be overblown. And some of that is good, and some of that is probably not so good. There's a lot of them probably don't care about the LA Galaxy and weren't there covering the LA Galaxy to begin with. Some of that is good, which means that hopefully they will cover the LA Galaxy and that will funnel down, and the more press for the Galaxy is usually better. But there's also, and we saw it with Zlatan, we saw it with David Beckham, we saw it with Gerrard, we saw it with all those, is that you just get people coming in to just pay attention to those players, and sort of it doesn't matter, which means that you get a lot of questions that have nothing to do with the Galaxy. And so
what is TAM?
Yeah, what is TAM?
What are the
rules? What's this guy's name? Who's that guy who's standing there? That's Jonathan Dos Santos. You should know that one.
That one they should know.
But no, I mean, it's going to focus a lot of attention on the LA Galaxy. You saw today at the press conference, over 160 different media people credentialed there. I think over 30 or 40 television cameras. There were a ton of cameras.
Jim Hill got the first question. That's how you know it was a big deal.
Jim Hill always gets the first question. Don't you know that? This is Los Angeles.
Icon. He's an icon.
He is an icon. There were people who was standing room only. I was standing off to the side. Larry Morgan and I were there. Scott French and I were there. Delmy was there. Sophie was there.
Yeah, the whole gang.
Kevin Baxter was there. They had Dylan Hernandez there. Which, by the way, I'm going to do this, and this may be the only time I ever do this. Dylan actually wrote an okay LA Galaxy story. You're okay to read it.
I was going to say, we're playing nice.
We're going to play nice on this one. It was an okay Galaxy story, and he got it right. I mean, I've criticized Dylan a lot with some of the coverage he gets. But this one he got right, 100%, and I have no problem with telling you that to go and see it. So, again, lots of people, lots of stuff at the press conference.
There's a buzz. I'm ready for the season to start.
You want it to start now,
I'm ready for those preseason games. It definitely gets you hyped up, and that's the beauty of the off season is, February 29th is going to roll around, and that game's never going to live up to all the buildup that we're putting into it now.
Well, and it's in Houston too, right? So I mean, it's not
March 7th is really
the one you're
circling.
You're ready to go for.
That's true.
So it's interesting to sort of see that. But no, I mean, there is a buzz, and you should understand that. I thought it was cool. Sarah, his wife, came in. I think his parents were there. Chicharito's parents were there, which he was talking about a whole bunch of times during his press conference and during the introduction. So they're closer now. Everybody's closer. This is go ahead.
Are we going to touch on it?
Let's do it. We have to talk about the naked humans.
Naked humans.
Yeah.
But Dennis Teclosa also mentioned when he was doing his introductions, he didn't just welcome Chicharito, he welcomed his family, his sister, his mother, his father. So, that gives you a little insight on the type of guy Dennis is because little details like that are why you're able to sign big names like Chicharito, is because he's able to make those connections and to, not just welcome the player, but to bring their family into it. And I'll mention this at this moment also, is that there was a lot of talk about Chicharito being a marketing move and it being done to sell tickets. And maybe, it was other faces in the Galaxy front office who are trying to sign him, for that reason. But when you think about Dennis Teclosa, his history with Chivas de Guadalajara, his history with the Mexican Federation, this had his fingerprints all over it. And the fact that he had those connections with Chicharito is why this deal was able to be sealed. So I don't know. Yes, there are going to be lots of benefits marketing wise, but this was not a marketing move. You could tell the relationship was there between Dennis and Javier and his family. And to go back to that, the blog, Naked Humans, he had a new episode drop out, which created a whole sensationalized buzz.
But
today.
I will say that the first 30 minutes of that show fly by like there's nothing there, and it's very Galaxy centric on it.
Yeah.
And you find out what's happening in the move and sort of how that move is going. So it's worth. I think it's worth the time. I mean,
So and you texted me. You said you got to check this out, and I saw several people posting it. So the blog is called Naked Humans.
Right.
So if you go to YouTube, type in Naked Humans. It's basically their vlog that they have. It's Chicharito, a couple of his friends, and his wife covering their life and kind of their journey. So it is an hour long, and that was my initial. My initial was like, an hour? Do I really have an hour to do this? But so I played it, put it on the background. So I actually have the Cliff's Notes.
Oh, okay, good.
So
That's right. You took notes.
If you could only watch a certain section,
right,
between the 5-minute mark and the 13-minute mark, he's basically talking about the negotiations going on with Sevilla and the Galaxy and how, and the manager there not trusting him. So that's a nice insight. Then the 23-minute mark to the 31st minute mark is that emotional conversation with his family and his parents. Kind of
that's the controversial one,
and we'll touch back on that. And then at the very end, after the 59th minute to the hour plus, it's him talking with his wife about finalizing the move, his excitement to come out to LA, and the stress that it might put on their family. And it's really a great look. We see these players and they're almost like commodities, like trading cards. Like, we got this one, you got that one. You forget they're people. They're like you and me. So when they're talking about coming to LA, they have to get a house, they have to get a car. And yeah, you make millions of dollars. Yes, you're famous, but you're still a person. You still have to arrange for an Uber to pick you up, or you still have to arrange, to make arrangements to live in a hotel or to find a house. So it's all there. So if you need the Cliff's Notes, those are the 15 most important minutes that you want to watch if you're just looking for the LA Galaxy content. But it was a fun watch. You could tell he has a fun time with his friends. He's got a personality, very likable guy.
Well, if you caught the press conference, he even says it, and I knew it just from watching the video, is he's like, I love to talk, as you can tell, right? Yeah. And I'm like, dude, this guy talks forever. A couple of the reporters and I were talking, and we said, this guy's technically, quote-wise, better than Zlatan in a lot of ways, because there's more substance to the... Zlatan's great with the one-liners and, the zings, and, oh, that's great, that's fun.
He's a performance artist.
Yeah, and he's entertaining, but Chicharito just seems honest.
He's a good hang. You could I want to hang out with him.
Can I tell you that I have a real problem with calling him Chicharito? It just seems like it's a little boy's name, and he's a Javier.
But when you look
he's
at
Javi.
Him, he's 31 years old. He has the boyish.
He does
look like it fits him. It works.
I don't know, man. It just.
So you're gonna call him Javier?
I think Javier. Well, the funny thing was,
I like Chicharito.
If you saw the MLS's interview that they did with him, Kalen Carr was there to interview Chicharito in Sevilla. By the way, that's a great video too. If you get to watch that, because
if you weren't in on Chicharito before, go watch that video.
Yes.
He says
a lot of. He says all the right things.
He says every single thing correctly. He answers every question correctly, and shows that he's ready to play for this club and to add 4 more stars to the crest.
My favorite
is just perfect.
My favorite though is they were asking about Carlos Vela and he goes, listen, Carlos knows I play for the biggest team in MLS and the biggest team in Los Angeles, right? And it was just like, boom, thank you very much.
Done and done.
This is going to be an interesting thing. He's saying all the right things, and I was thinking back, and I'm like, okay, what designated player do I remember comes in that sort of has like this squeaky clean image that says all the right things at the very beginning? And people, and I was like, as soon as I started hearing Chicharito say these things, I see this, but more. And so everybody's like, oh, it's Giovanni Dos Santos. That's who you're thinking of. And it's no, that was not correct.
Who said that? Get him out of throw him out of the chat room.
No, it was Steven Gerrard. It was
really?
Steven Gerrard.
Okay.
When Steven Gerrard came in, he said all the right things. It wasn't perfect, but it was, oh, hey, this guy's going to come here. He's not coming here to retire.
He's a professional.
He was a professional. Yeah. And you're like, okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Polished.
This is more. This is more than that, because there's exuberance in this, and I think Chicharito even alluded to it. I mean, the guy went on like a 5-minute diatribe on why football is amazing. Yeah. It's like the unpredictability.
Well, and he even mentioned, he talked about what's fun about it is it being unpredictable and not knowing what's going to happen. And he almost like a trust the process. It's all about the trainings and the moves and the flight over and all those little memories. Yeah, the things on the field are going to happen, but it's all the other things that lead up to it that make it interesting. So yeah, he's going to be a great quote. When I watched the interview with Kalen Carr, watched the press conference, and you mentioned it, he's almost going to be a better quote than Zlatan in some ways. That he's not going to give you the spicy sound bites, but he's going to tell you the what you want to hear, and he's going to give you a lot of meat on that bone. But what it made me think of is he's almost like the anti-Zlatan because of his boyish charm and kind of his bubbly attitude and positivity. Zlatan came in and he's like, I'm gonna rip your throat out, and then I'm gonna stomp on you, and then I'm gonna kick you to the curb. And Chicharito is more like, you know what? I'm coming here. I'm having fun. I'm here to score goals. I'm here to play. I'm here to win. It's the antithesis to what Zlatan was. And so that's what made it amazing. And so going back to that naked humans thing, he wasn't afraid. That was on his mind. And so that, I don't know if this is a concern or not a concern. He pays attention to what people are saying on social media.
Yep.
Because that whole retirement quote, in the blog, he says, this is like the beginning of my retirement.
Right.
And so there were outlets that kind of ran with it and painted it in a negative light, took it out of content.
And let's face it.
It was out of context.
Because if you watch that, and by the way, I've had some morons who have been like texting me or DMing me saying this is a damning quote. You can't have this is a punch in the eye to the league and a punch in the eye to the team. I'm like, in what situation did you get that out of that context? Yeah. Because if you watch the whole thing, this is a guy. And by the way, if you don't have empathy for this, I don't understand you as a human being. This is a guy who his whole life he's grown up. His grandfather played soccer. His father played soccer professionally, both of them, who wanted to go to Europe and went to Europe for 10 years. And he's been trying to live that dream of being that premier European player. And for 10 years, he has a career for 10 years in Europe, in the best leagues in the world.
And we have a MLS team podcast.
Yes.
We love this league. We want the sport to grow. You have a son. I have a son. If we wanted them to be the most successful soccer player in the world, where would we want them to go?
Yeah.
We want them to go to Europe.
Yes.
And so that's the dream. And that's what he was saying, is the dream is to go to Europe. And he did it. And he went there. And he's 31 years old, and he's now coming back. So, yes, there's a certain sadness to that, because that phase of his career is over.
It's over.
And so it made me think, and I'm going to compare myself to an athlete.
Oh, please do. These always go over real well. I love doing. I do this the same thing.
It's something we like to do over at Guys in Shorts. Is, LeBron James did this. Well, actually, when I played some rec ball, but I've made it no secret that I'm a teacher by trade. That's my job. I'm still a teacher, but I'm out of the classroom. So when I made that transition, when I realized I was no longer going to have like my own kids, my own classroom anymore because of this new position that I was taking, it made me sad. I was actually sad that, I'm not going to have that connection. I'm not going to have like my own, class, because that's why I got into teaching. That's one of the best, rewards is going in and having your own class and making an impact on young people's lives. So when I, had a shift in my career, I was sad because I was never going to see that again. So to bring it back to Chicharito, the dream was to go to Europe, to be successful in Europe, and he did it. But that part's over, and it's okay to be sad. And he showed that emotion. He was sad about it, and there's no shame in that.
And he also and by the way, I want to bring this up as well, because Daniel in our chat room and other people have said this as well, that the translation on that as well.
Yes.
And by the way, this is not. I have to trust other people on this. I don't know Spanish. I know little, un poco bit. Okay, very very minor bit. Yeah, just a little tiny bit. Okay, and I can almost sometimes put together clues in which to understand things. So I talk to people who speak Spanish. Eric speaks Spanish, and so he can translate things for me sometimes. And then we have real Spanish speakers. Kevin Baxter, by the way, speaks fluent Spanish and can translate stuff for me all the time. So I have him do it. I also have, native speakers who can translate stuff for me. So I go and I ask, and they have told me that, the word there in retire wasn't exactly, it's not a direct equivalent to retire as it is in the USA. And this is what Daniel says in the chat room. He says, it's not a direct equivalent to retire as we use in the USA in relation to a profession. It means more like to withdraw away from something. The Spanish word for retire is jubilar, I believe. So that's what he says. But
it's basically like a winding down.
Yes,
it doesn't mean I'm ending. It means I'm slowing. And I think even in the press conference when he tried to explain himself, it still didn't land. I feel like you and I feel like the majority of people understand the sentiment.
If you watch the video,
you understand the sentiment behind it. But if you just listen to the press conference when he tries to defend it, he says, maybe my retirement lasts 5 or 6 years, and I think it's just it's a wording thing. You heard it in his press conference. He mentioned something about I'm going to do what I can for this institution. Like there's some words like no one calls a sports franchise an institution, but we know what he meant.
Right.
It means so a lot of that just is in the translation. It makes it a little bit different. So
but
I don't think it was a bad thing.
Here's the thing.
If you watch the whole clip.
If you watch the whole clip, by the way,
that's what you want.
If he says this is the beginning of my retirement, he's absolutely correct, by the way, too. Because if you look at it, let's give him a 4-year contract.
Yeah.
He's 32 in June, I think. Okay. So whenever the contract is over, he has 3 years plus 1. Let's say it goes all 4 years. He's 32 plus 4. He's 36 years old. Is that not a career?
Yeah. PSG is not coming and calling for him to be the number 1 option at striker to go back to Europe after that point.
He knows that that this is coming to a close. Now, Chris Tucker, by the way, on Twitter put out a great thing is, okay, so how many big designated players came in and actually retired with the LA Galaxy? David Beckham didn't, right? Yeah. Robbie Keane didn't.
Well, it's funny that I mentioned PSG.
Right.
Although they were at a little bit different stature now than they were back then.
Yeah, Robbie Keane went to India to play.
Yeah.
He didn't retire. Landon Donovan technically didn't even retire with the LA Galaxy because he went and played in Mexico.
That's a bit of but he didn't come to the Galaxy at a quote unquote retirement age.
Correct. So
Zlatan,
Steven Gerrard is the one. That I can think of. That's like,
Ashley Cole went on to play.
I mean, and so you can Nigel de Jong still playing.
Yep.
So again, like the whole retirement league thing is overblown. But when you look at Chicharito, yeah, he is. And here's why I don't buy the translation issue in terms of that is that he went and defended the word today.
Yeah.
And so he knew it was a thing. And again, he's right in the fact that people are taking it out of context because if you watch it, he is talking about this European dream. Yeah. And by the way, if he went to, and somebody put this beautifully, I think it was almost Dylan Hernandez, and I'm sorry, but Dylan said it, and I agree.
Where credit's due.
And I've said the same thing, is that Liga MX is a step down from La Liga as well.
100%.
So if he would have came there, they would have been like, oh, he's retiring as well.
Absolutely. And if he would have gone to Chivas de Guadalajara, they would have said, oh, he's getting a hometown discount. This is just kind of a favor type of thing. Yeah, so I absolutely agree. We love the league. We want it. I mentioned it earlier. We want it to succeed. But let's be real. It's not MLS is not La Liga. It's not the Premier League.
I got a chat room.
Like we have to be real. Yes, we want it to be at that level, but it's not there now, and that's okay.
That's okay. I got a chat room dinger. John Cena DuPont.
John Cena is always bringing the heat.
He says Nigel de Jong retired Darlington Nagby.
That's true.
That is
never to be heard from again. Although he was to be heard from again.
Yeah, I know. What do you know?
Yeah, but still,
it's one of those. But no, I mean, so I have no problem. He said all the right things. He's coming here. He's talked about his exuberance for the game. Listen, if you watch that video, you see his wife wasn't happy in Sevilla.
Yeah,
you want to talk about the number one reason? I'm telling you right now, that was a big driver.
We actually talked about this on our text thread. We said when the wife's not happy and wants to leave, the Galaxy got him.
Yeah,
they had him locked up. She was mentioning how Sevilla is almost like 20 years behind technology wise. There's not, Uber and Uber Eats and ways to get around the city and ways to get groceries. So, when you're, a non-Spanish speaker living in, a city that's a little more antiquated, Los Angeles seems a lot more appealing. Yeah. And so happy wife, happy life.
We talked about this already. I didn't talk about it with you. I think I texted you, but I told Larry this, that I've told you that in her comments, she said that the only place she trusts to get her hair cut is in Los Angeles or in Australia.
Well, there you go. It's a done deal.
That's it.
Well,
you knew it was that.
At the press conference.
Yep.
Chicharito said, maybe I'll retire in Australia.
Yes, that was exactly.
Maybe that's not a slip of the tongue. Maybe.
He knew he was going there. Well, I'm sure his wife smiled on that one. Right? She's Australian, so.
They've got this whole plan mapped out.
Is it wife or is it girlfriend? It's wife, isn't it? Did they get married? Are they? Is she just a wag? Can we just wag her?
Are you giving me homework here?
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was a wife.
I can't remember. It doesn't matter.
His partner.
It doesn't matter. They have a kid. They're good. Very much like a home guy. I was talking to somebody in the Galaxy today, and who got to hang out with him a little bit, and was like, the dude is the real deal. And this person has told me when people are not the real deal, by the way. They're like, nope, shaking their head the whole deal. He's like, this guy's the real deal. He's like, yeah. He walks up and he's like, yeah, I'm Javi. How's it going? It's good. Nice to meet you. The whole deal. No, it doesn't seem to be an ego there. He talked about how he's not a selfish player. He goes, yeah, I'm a striker. Sometimes I'm not going to pass and I'm going to score goals.
That's part of the job.
He goes, but it's, by the way, chat room says wife. So we'll go with that. He goes, but yeah, I'm not a selfish person. He goes, I want to win. and that means I'm not scoring goals, but I'm helping my team and we're winning, then I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. He wants to score goals. I really think that it's an interesting case. We were kicking around numbers. Kevin was trying to say, oh, well, there's no way he scores 15 goals because, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I know. I disagreed. I said between 15 and 20 is really where you want him.
15 is the
minimum.
Is the minimum, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that's too hard to understand if he's healthy. By the way, hold on. Let's just back it up for a second. We're talking about retirement for a guy who's 31 years old.
We just sent a 38-year-old striker
to AC Milan,
who's a lot of people wanted back.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're not exactly talking, and not someone with an injury history of knee replacements. Yes, of course there's injuries, but there's not a serious he doesn't have an injury-plagued career.
You just jinx him. I just I don't even know
Knock
how
on
you.
wood.
I
take it back.
That's
I
not
take
a.
it. Oh no.
Yeah,
sorry guys.
Everybody can mark that one down on about the 40th minute of this podcast.
Isolate that audio.
Yeah, that was how it goes. But no, I mean, so he says all the right things. His attitude and his demeanor. I was told specifically that he was trying to continue to sign things when his security team kept telling him, no, you have to be pulled back. And again, this seems like a guy who is going. I'll be honest. This seems like a guy who will come on our podcast. I mean, it's
you gotta
really
know
hard.
the right people. You said you were talking to someone at the Galaxy. Let's get them on.
There's a bunch of people who are on my list. You know who's top on my list right now?
Who?
James Corden.
Oh, did you see that video?
Yeah.
Kudos to the Galaxy for putting that out. They showed a video of Chicharito calling James Corden to talk to him. It seemed like they were old buddies. I know James Corden is a West Ham supporter, so he obviously probably has a previous relationship there. But when he said the deal's done, and James Corden's face lit up, and he says he's at the games every week. So that's pretty cool.
By the way, I questioned that whenever he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm there all the time, buddy," and James Corden, who's like one of the busiest people in Hollywood, by the way, just ridiculously crazy.
Well, Katz is on green screen, so
it was just one spot. You just need to have to
you
go.
could actually do that in a suite at Dignity Health Sports Park.
Yeah, no.
Fun fact: Katz was recorded at
Dignity Health Sports.
I'm starting that rumor.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you look at it, and I always think it's interesting. Gordon Ramsay was a big Galaxy fan whenever David Beckham was here, and he was at the games all the time, and you saw him. I don't see James Corden all the time, so I was like,
There's been photographs of him.
There are. But I'm told he does have a suite. By the way, he has a suite out there, and he definitely follows the team whenever they're on the road. In terms of he follows what the results are. He knows, and if you saw the video,
they're his club. Yeah.
If you saw the video, he talks to Chicharito, and he goes something. He was like, "With you and Leggett
and Katai." Katai is an inside. If you have to follow the team to know Katai, that you don't, because there are going to be people who show up on March 7th and say, "Where's Alessandrini? Who's this Katai guy?"
Yep.
So to know that, he follows the team. He's a diehard, which is pretty cool. And of course, he did the Beckham statue prank.
Yes.
So he's in with this club. Let's get him on the show.
We
wanted the head. Didn't we want the statue?
We did want the head. We asked James Corden
as a guest,
Yeah.
not to keep it.
Yeah, it was fine. No, I mean, this is one of those things that I can try to get James Corden on the podcast, but really, if more people tweet at him and tell him to come on the podcast, that might have better chance of working than
if Kevin Baxter can say the name Chicharito and he's on the team 2 weeks later.
Right.
We can get
James Corden?
James Corden to call him.
Why not?
I almost call him Jordan.
That would work too.
Jordan Corden.
Okay, so there's that. Here's the other thing. Let me give you a little update on training as well. So Chicharito was technically at training today. He did zero training, but he was at training today.
He did the initiation. There's usually some type of new player initiation when a new player shows up.
He was out there for about 15 minutes, and so that was about the gist of it. He came out late in terms of everybody else was already out on the field training. He came out. He walked through the little tunnel, and there was the whole "One of Us" tweet that the Galaxy put out, and he did that whole thing, and then basically training was over, and everybody back for the press conference.
He had a press conference
to get to. So that's fine. That's a good time in terms of how it goes. But it's you're gonna watch him as he gets introduced here. I mean, this is a guy who is technically in quote unquote game shape because he's coming over
and he wants to play. Yeah.
Go ahead.
The other thing is he came at the right time because he dodged Valdecantos' 2-a-days at the beach.
Ooh.
There's some beach training if you follow the Instagram page at Galaxy Profile. Got to plug it.
Do I get just tons of credit for guessing they were going to the beach whenever I saw offsite training?
Yeah.
That was like I was. And by the way,
it's a no-brainer. That's a benefit of being in Southern California. You get to go to the beach in February.
You know what though? How many times do you think the Galaxy have trained on the beach?
Probably 5 times total.
I have no idea. This was the only time
I thought this was like a
No,
Price is Right
I didn't
game.
know. I didn't know the answer. I'm saying that I don't think that they have ever trained at the beach, at least not to my knowledge. I don't remember pictures. They've been at the beach to do events.
I was going to say,
but I don't think they've trained.
Seen pictures of them training.
I don't think they've trained.
Maybe players training. Maybe not an official Galaxy.
Maybe not an official. Yeah. So no. I mean, it looks like that, which was great. I guessed that, and the funny thing was that whenever I saw the schedule come out, I texted the Galaxy. I'm like, what is this off-site training? Are they going to go to the beach or something? And then I immediately said, I said, do not tell me. I want to be right, and I want to guess it without you telling me. And they're like, I won't tell you, except that, yeah, that's probably where they're. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So
and little things like that. I think there were a couple years ago where the Galaxy trained. I believe was it in Arizona or so when you travel offsite with a team, there's a team bonding aspect, and you see that from the pictures. Is they're having fun,
right,
getting acclimated with each other. Take what you will. They're just pictures, but it seems like, the group is happy to be back. And when you see the players posting, they're excited to be back and training. This is their job. It's what they love to do. And so it seems like this is a good thing to go off site, change the scenery. It's still early, but Valdecantos is still running the ship there. So
I have a question.
Beware the butcher.
I have a question for you. An important one, I think. So Zlatan Ibrahimovic, obviously huge influence on everything the LA Galaxy did over the last 2 years. Team chemistry go up with Chicharito instead of Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
Seems like it. I'm the number one Zlatan defender who will tell you the Galaxy needed him. He was a great asset to the club. But I'll also tell you that there are probably a lot of members of that locker room who are happy that he's gone.
Yes.
And they're not going to have him looming and staring and doing his thing. Zlatan earned it with his career and his level of where he is on the world soccer stage. He's earned it. He can do what he wants. But Chicharito is going to bring a different flavor, and I think that's going to change the team camaraderie a little bit. You see it, with Jonathan Dos Santos, his personality, Sebastian Lletget. If you follow, and again, it's my thing, follow these guys on social media, you get a little bit of a glimpse into their life, and when you see their personality, you see Chicharito's personality, especially after seeing his. You can see that the personalities seem like they're going to mesh well. And that's what you want. I spoke with Eddie Lewis in an interview once before, and I asked him, is team chemistry a real thing? And he said, it is and it isn't. When team chemistry is off, it can make a good team play poorly. But when team chemistry is on, it's going to make a good team play that much better. So it shouldn't, because players are going to go out there and do their job. But when camaraderie is right, it's going to make the team perform that much better.
Eric, I've been watching a little documentary on Netflix called Cheer. And
how are you going to bring this one around? I've been watching you. I've got no connection.
Yeah, I've got one. I saw it and I'm like, I'm not watching that. All right, that does not seem like something I'm going to watch.
Cheer also does not seem to be in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, so my wife and I were like, I kind of want to watch this just a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. We watched it. And the next thing we know, we're sufficiently hooked on it, and we've gone all the way through it. So we're already done with that season. And I won't
glowing endorsement.
Yeah, I won't ruin it for anybody, but it's intense. I mean, I was edge of my seat, all tense for Daytona. So those were sort of the fun things, like whenever I was watching it. But I'm thinking, and first of all, cheerleading.
I'm waiting for this to turn the corner.
I got it. Don't worry. No, this is good. So cheerleading seems like this rough and tumble sport that is what makes soccer players look like they're not even trying hard. I mean, some of these people are falling from heights and concussions, all that stuff. Anyway, the side note to that is that one of the things they talked about is they had an alumni come in, an alumnus come in. And talk to this group at Navarro College, which was where it was. Okay, so
is that a made-up college?
No, it's a junior college.
Okay.
It's a JUCO.
Yeah, but still.
National champions. But 13-time national champions.
You were all in on cheer.
I'm telling you. So, but they had to come in, and she asked them, and it's a bunch of guys and girls, and they're all sitting around. She goes, do you guys all get along? Are you a group? And they're like, yeah. Like, they didn't answer. And she's like,
nope, you don't. No, you don't.
yeah. And she looks around and she says, this is a problem. She goes, if you all can't trust each other, and if you all can't, and by the way, she definitely was using y'all, and I'm spacing it out.
Yeah, where is Navarro College?
Texas.
Oh, okay. It's all snapping into focus.
Isn't it? It's all coming together.
Sense. Yes.
So if you all can't trust each other and you all can't work for a common goal, it's not going to work. You're not going to be national champions. It's never going to happen. And you could see them sort of look around at each other and be like, yeah, we're not together. We're not doing that. There's something to that. We talked to Mike McGee in our 700 show. We talked to Todd Donovan on our 700 show. We talked to those guys, and the biggest thing, and I continue to take away from it, is that they say how much they played for each other.
Yeah.
And it's easy to go back and look at the Galaxy team last year and say that wasn't happening because, they didn't succeed past, the second round of the playoffs, which is a good step forward. But you could always tell that was not a complete team, and we knew that. But playing for each other is something that this team has to learn how to do. Mike McGee said it. Todd Donovan said it. I imagine that Landon Donovan would tell you the same thing.
It's the part that takes you over the edge. I mean, you saw it with Atlanta United a couple seasons ago. You saw that team chemistry was on point. When they got on the field, everyone was in sync with one another. And they, take it back to social media, we're spending time with each other off the field, and that's how you build those connections and take it to the next level. So teams who have been successful have that secret sauce. McGee, when he talked about it, he said some of the best memories are, in the locker room drinking scotch after a game and buying an expensive bottle and making that like an inside bet, and so I think things like that do push it over the top. You could have all the talent in the world, but if the chemistry's off, it's going to be a little bit of a disaster. Think of like France in the World Cup, was it 2010?
Right.
They crashed out because of all the talent in the world, defending World Cup champions, and it's a mess behind the scenes. What was the one in South Africa?
Yeah, which U.S. team though crashed out? There was the whole debacle. Was that 98?
2010 was 98.
Yeah,
the Steve Sampson.
Yeah.
There's a whole podcast series about that if you want to look at that. But yeah, basically after 94 and all the growth that the U.S. made in growing the game there, basically the 98 team was a dumpster fire chemistry-wise. So that's a thing. It's a real thing, and it looks like we're checking all the right boxes, and there's still some pieces to be added, so we'll see how they fit in with the team.
It'll be interesting. LA Galaxy currently stand at 22 players on the roster. 22. So that means there's 8 possible additions, but we are still expecting at least one demotion, Didi Traore, and also Jorgen Skjelvik is still not supposed to be on this team. I'm just telling you, it's just, he's going to start. He has a contract. He's going to be there.
I heard that he hasn't been seen in a lot of photos, though.
He's
in the video.
Around. I mean, you see him. It looks like he's training.
They're not showcasing him.
No, of course not.
They should be.
No, they shouldn't be, because he's not going to be there.
Hey, Norway, are you listening?
Yeah, I mean, this is where it is. I think Kevin talked about it last time, possibly going back to Rosenborg, where he came from. So that's still a possibility. People, again, I wouldn't freak out about this. The Galaxy sit currently at 9 international slots, and they only have 8. So this is another indication that Traore is going to get moved down, especially with the LA Galaxy still going after. It looks like an attacking piece, according to Dennis DeClosa, and a defensive piece. So there are 2 probably borderline starters / backups that are being attempted here for both of those. And then you're going to fill in. He talked about signing some other homegrown players. I think we know of at least one.
Well, and that's if you're following the pictures of training. You're seeing some LA Galaxy 2 players who you can kind of suspect, given their form, Leagues Cup and how they performed with the G2s last season. You might be seeing some call-ups, some homegrowns added to the roster. But if you're looking at starters, strictly starters, the LA Galaxy have their starting lineup.
There's one. There's a borderline, technically. But yes, I get where
about central defense.
Yeah.
If you look at the team and who they started last season, we have a team that can start. Ideally, you want to add a borderline starter who you can mix and match and integrate into the squad. But right now, the Galaxy has a starting lineup, and
they do.
That's essentially set.
I know that Matt Doyle was going through and talking about how the LA Galaxy are still woefully short on some things. I mean, he's right, by the way. Yes. I don't disagree. Not 100%. I don't disagree 100%. Places where they're thin, outside wing right now. So both a backup for Pavone and a backup for Katai.
Because right now you're shifting pieces who you had in the center, who you'd play out wide.
Like Leggett could go out wide.
But not a natural, this is our depth piece, your Emma Boateng coming off the bench. You know exactly where they're going to play.
Yeah, so that's something to watch. What's going to happen there? We talk about the center back depth. Otherwise, okay, so if you're going to start, say you have your starting, and I think Insua is still not in camp with the Galaxy, but should be shortly. If you're going to have a starting, it's Insua back there. He's the only change to the back line, though. Technically, everybody else was here last year, because Rolf Felcher is probably your starter over Julian Araujo.
Yes.
Although he sounds like he's having a very good camp so far. So that's a good sign for LA Galaxy fans.
For Rolf?
No, yeah. Well,
Julian's not in camp. He's with the
Araujo. That's what I'm saying. He's with the U.S. men's national team. Sorry. I know. He's. Whenever I said camp in my mind, I'm like U.S. international. So
the Galaxy are at camp, right?
They are. They are in camp. They're in training camp, I guess.
But still.
So you have him doing well, but I still don't think he's a starter over Felcher. I think he could become that starter over the year.
We're grooming him to be a starter. He's not there yet.
But you have good depth there. That's good. You have Danny Acosta who can play left back. So that's a left back. So you sort of have cover there. So really, you're looking for cover in the center at center back, which means an either borderline starter really helps that out.
Or do you shift Nsua to the middle?
Why would you see? Why would you do that? You get a guy who you have a weak position at, and Nsua certainly seems like he can play left back. He has the pedigree to be able to play left back. He's not Ashley Cole, and I'm not going to pretend that he is, but he played at a very high level at left back, and I don't think he's going to have a problem playing that position this year.
I agree.
I said the same thing about Jorgen Skjelvik, just to let you know. So, you know.
Well, Jorgen Skjelvik was the opposite. You know, someone who started as a center back and worked better as a left back. You know, degrees.
I was going to say better.
Degrees of working
marks.
better, but you know, so that's a possibility as well. Because if you look at where Nsua has played in the past, he has filled in the center, but obviously his preferred position and where I think he'll be best for the Galaxy is out left. I agree with that.
Well, and here's the other thing again, we talk about it so many times is that, okay, so like I said, there's 9 international slots being taken right now. If the season started, the Galaxy would have to go out and buy one in order to keep everybody in.
Can we get some green cards?
The Galaxy used to be really good at this.
Atlantic did it. Inter Miami did it.
You know who is prime for one too was Jonathan Dos Santos. Should have a green card.
He's
at this
here.
point.
He practically runs Hollywood.
That should happen because you're seeing it around the league that people are going out and getting green cards, which you should do. Galaxy used to do it. Juninho, Sarvis both got green cards. Didn't count as international players. Those happened a whole bunch. Robbie Keane, green card. Did Beckham get a green card whenever he was?
It makes sense. It seems like he probably had a residence out here before he came out.
But it's one of those things that, and if you saw some of the tweets today that were going around Twitter, talking about the length of time that says, a couple year process now is 5 or 6 month process. And so people are being able to do it. So if the Galaxy don't take advantage of getting some of their guys green cards, they're missing out on a competitive advantage.
And what's Chicharito's wife's nationality?
She's Australian.
Australian. Oh.
So close?
I thought
you thought maybe American?
Her English is so good. I thought maybe there's some American connection.
No, Australian as far as I know. It's one of those. That's how you look at the LA Galaxy in the lineup. So, I mean, they're missing, in my mind, one of the biggest things that they have right now is that there aren't a whole bunch of changes to defense, which is a problem. Or
is it? Because then you have consistency. You're not shaking up things. The players know what they're going to get out of their teammates. Good or bad.
There is a huge hole right now of anybody who's going to play underneath Chicharito. Who's the backup to Chicharito?
Ethan Zubak.
Yeah, and that doesn't work. Yep. That does not compute.
I agree.
He can be on the team. I'm not saying he can't be on the team, but he cannot be the backup.
Your number one option if Chicharito needs to be subbed off. I agree. He should not be that number one option because then you're shifting pieces again.
And by the way,
you shift Pavone up there and then move, different, make it happen somewhere else.
Here's the other part of this is that, and I know Galaxy fans are always like, oh, well, we need an central attacking midfielder. You got like a couple guys who can play that role. That's it.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Whether
Whether they do it or not, we'll see.
You're done with this. I mean, you can't have a designated player in every single spot. And I think that's sort of where it comes in that, now these signings that come in, you're talking about the next 8 signings that come in, are depth and will really kind of almost determine how successful probably the Galaxy are. Because if you can get a backup striker who can put in some goals, a backup striker who you can put in late in games whenever you need goals and you can pull out a midfielder or something like that and go with 2 up top with Chicharito and somebody else.
Alan Gordon-esque type signing. Someone who's not going to light the world on fire, but who's going to be, a serviceable goal scorer.
Who's going to be a danger, coming off the bench. You need that. The central attacking midfield is Leggett right now. You can play Katai there and move Leggett, bounce him out to the side. That happens too, but I don't love Katai in that spot. I think he's better on the wings. So you look at that and you say, listen, there are pieces here. And as you said, the starting lineup is pretty much set. I mean, you can argue between Joe Corona and Sasha Kleshner right now, but Joe Corona's probably going to get the nod and Kleshner's coming off the bench.
Well, if you're going with consistency and where we were successful last season was with that triangle of Leggett, Dos Santos, and Corona. I think that was the most successful midfield. Fabio came in there, but at the same time, I don't think he had some good moments.
He scored in Liga MX. Did you see that?
His first he had a game and had some assists.
Why does that always happen?
Yeah, but but still, we're better off. I don't think he was worth keeping around. I think
that's
Leggett, Dos Santos, and Corona were your best options.
So, I mean, that's where you're sitting. You look at Jonathan Dos Santos as a starter. Christian Pavón is a center. Javier Chicharito Hernandez is a starter. Katai is a starter. Kleshen's borderline. Shelvik is on the bench and moving to Norway. Again, People Gonzalez.
Have you been working out? You got to be ready for that shirtless shirt.
I've been eating more. I swear. I'm not nervous, but as this goes on, I'm going to get more nervous. When the middle of February hits and Jorgen's still on the roster, I'm not going to be a happy camper. Okay,
you're not going to not be nervous.
And people are saying, are they going to buy Shelvik out? I don't see them doing that. I see them being able to move him.
If you paid $6 million to buy out Giovanni Dos Santos, why not pay $1 million? It seems like it's
because you can probably loan them out for less than that.
And eat. I mentioned the Panda mentioned this. You eat half a salary. Or
and so somebody's going to get him for $500,000. Okay,
it's not bad.
So that happens. Joe Corona's a starter. Perry Kitchen is a great backup now.
Yeah, he's a perfect. Come off the bench when you have the lead, and in games that he started last season, I remember him specifically that Orlando game. He looked great. He did his job. He, again, serviceable MLS professional athlete that you need out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, Perry Kitchen last year of his contract this year. So
just hope he could stay healthy.
Yeah.
Perry Kitchen's pelvis.
Yeah, the pelvis injuries. We should get a shirt that just says pelvis on it. And then we can figure that one out. Perry Kitchen,
that.
David Bingham. The starting goalkeeper. Every time I see somebody be like, they're going to bring in another goalkeeper. No, they're not. They're not.
Especially not with an international. They're not wasting an international slot on. Yeah.
Sebastian Lletget, starter. Rolf Felcher, a starter. Daniel Stera is a starter. Danny Acosta is a great backup, and he says, Dennis talks about him fighting for a spot on that back line.
I look at him similar to Araujo. Araujo is someone who, at his highs, is going to be your best option, but you need them to consistently be at that level.
Araujo is going to fight for, speaking of him, he's going to fight for that starting spot over there with Felcher.
I think when he's on, he's your best option over Rolf.
Ethan Zubak is a homegrown player, so his salary doesn't count against cap, so it doesn't really matter.
No harm, no foul.
There you go. Efrain Alvarez, listen, expecting a huge jump forward for him this year. If he's going to play meaningful minutes and get meaningful time, he has to be meaningful on the field, and I think that he disappears more often than he shows up.
Well, when I heard people talking about who's your cam, is Efrain Alvarez going to be your cam? I don't see him there. A lot of people wanted to see him make a leap last season. We saw a little bit of it, especially that home opener, but then it kind of fizzled after that. So you do want to see him take those next steps, taking into account his age, but at some point where you're going to have to stop saying, oh well, he's still young. No. In the world of soccer, you can be 16, 17 and make an impact on these teams. So we're going to need to see that next level up from him.
Cuello is a whatever. I mean, it doesn't hurt you. I think that if he takes a step forward, that only helps you. I mean, listen, if you want to have success this year, have Efrain Alvarez take a huge step forward. Have Emil Cuello take a huge step forward. Have all these guys fighting for minutes so that way you can bring these guys in the second half and there's some impact to this team. Justin Vom Steeg, goalkeeper. Okay, great. That it doesn't matter. Eric Lopez, great, homegrown, doesn't matter. Look at these.
And I like those. Vom Steeg and Lopez. When you look at that, you're not wasting international slots. You're not breaking the bank on these players. And if you don't have great feelings about Bingham, the drop off, it seems like for a decent goalkeeper, it seems like as long as you're not a dumpster fire, it's going to be okay. It's your defense that needs to do the work.
Yeah. If you haven't, by the way, I implore you to go to The Athletic and read a story by Sam Stejskal. Is that how you say it? I never can say his I just sort of smush it all together.
I was going to say, it's like retirement. We know what you're trying to say.
It's fine. And he talks about how the Los Angeles Galaxy signed Chicharito. If you read the article that was on the Galaxy's website, it's pretty short on details. So this one has all of the details in terms of how it was signed. And even remember that big hiccup in terms of, the deal may fall through, explained in this piece. It's great. And basically what that comes down to is the management of the individual's marketing rights and how those were going to be managed and signed and dealt with, which we had talked about.
And when you think about a player like Chicharito, who's the face of Mexican soccer, if I was his agent, that's something that I'd want to work into the deal. Yeah. So it makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense. I'll have to say it. And by the way, we've never had a problem giving credit where credit is due. We said it whenever Zlatan Ibrahimovic was signed, and we will say it again. Between Dennis Toklosa and Jovan Karofsky, they're the ones making these deals happen. Yep. And Dennis certainly had that prearranged. And Jovan Karofsky, they even talk about in this piece, tried to go after Chicharito before he moved to West Ham. the LA Galaxy were interested. And again, this is an LA Galaxy move that they've been targeting Chicharito for a long time. In fact, probably almost as long as Giovanni Dos Santos.
And Dan Beckerman mentioned it at the press conference. He was the first one to speak. He said this is a move that the Galaxy have been trying to make for years. And the other thing, to your point, with Jovan Kirovski is every single player, every person involved, Chris Klein, Guillermo Barros-Schelotto, Dennis Teclosa, they all thanked Jovan for helping get this deal done.
That happened with Zlatan too. And so, it's he's
got the
magic sort of touch, the closing touch.
The closer gene.
Guillermo Barros-Schelotto, the big deal, and Jovan talked about it in this athletic piece by Sam Stejskal, was just that he's like, you have to fly there. You have to show them that you're serious. And so whenever Guillermo got on the plane, whenever Dennis Teclosa got on the plane, when Jovan got on the plane and went to Sevilla, and by the way, it talks about it in here, they went to Sevilla, and Sevilla's like, nah, we're good. Thanks.
And we also keep referencing the blog, but if you go back and watch, he says they want me. Chicharito at Sevilla felt unwanted.
Yep.
He seemed like his manager. He wasn't trusted by his manager. They didn't view him highly as a starter. And so when he sees all the executives flying out from the LA Galaxy, he knows they want me. They want me to play. Why would I stay somewhere where they don't want me when I have a whole? They're backing up the bank. They're sending all their best people. They're telling me all the right things. Of course, that they're going to stroke his ego in that way, and that's going to ease the situation to get him to come over.
Yeah, they mentioned a couple different. They talk about Nico Castillo as well, and we talked about that one. There was another player, I forget who they were going after, but basically, they had reached out to Chicharito, and he was like, at one point, they were like, no, it's not going to happen. I want to stay. And then Dennis was paying attention. Again, Dennis just doing his homework on this, and knowing Chicharito since Chicharito was at
that's a benefit.
Guadalajara, right? Knowing that and just texting his agent is like, well, how does Chicharito feel now that he didn't get any minutes in playing against a third tier team in I forget one of the cups.
Copa del Rey.
Yeah, Copa del Rey. Mm-hmm. And the whole deal and the agent was like, he wants to come to USA. It's like, okay, good.
Yeah,
let's make it happen. And then Sevilla says no. And then a little while they said, no, you have to talk to the player. And if the player really wants to come, then he has to tell us that. And then maybe we'll discuss it. And apparently Chicharito went in there and said, I want to go play.
Is this like when your kid comes up to you and says, can I do this? And you say, go ask mom.
Go ask mom. Yeah, it was one of those. But they said it. And then Sevilla goes, basically to Dennis and Jovan and Guillermo is like, well, why don't you guys come have lunch with us? And Dennis was like, if they're asking you to come have lunch, it's good news.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Because it seems like Beckham was done over dinner. Zlatan was done over a meal.
Right.
So that
it's about eating.
If you invite Jovan to lunch or dinner, you're getting a player.
Well, I mean, and that's how it happens. And by the way, there were so many sort of interesting takes on this that perhaps Chivas was going after Chicharito. He actually smashed that to little smithereens today. And by the way, he's right. He says there's a rule that says I can't play with them. The way the seasons line up. Remember, you can't play. You can be registered with 3 teams and play for 2 in the same calendar year, but you can't be registered. You can't play for all 3 teams. But the one exception is if a league has a different schedule. And because MLS is on a different schedule,
to where it plays in our favor.
There you go.
Finally, it pays off.
Finally, that's how it works. So anyway, again, read this article. It has all the details. It talks about the hiccups. It talks about, them working through everything and how everything really was. I mean, that whole maybe it's going to fall through things only happened for a couple hours and then it was resolved. Go watch The Naked Humans. In fact, I implore you. And if you watch Chicharito crying, even
just that 10-minute spell is worth it.
It's totally worth it. You want to watch it. You want to see it, and how that goes. So I don't know. I will tell you right now. I'm excited to cover Chicharito. He has so much substance to what he says. And he seems so passionate about it that it's infectious whenever you listen to him. I don't know if there's any video of me actually watching him during the press conference. Usually there's not. It's all pointed up front. But every once in a while I get caught. And usually I look like I'm angry.
Leave it to the guys who point a video camera and talking to a microphone who want people to look at them.
Yeah, exactly.
At the press conference for Chicharito, you expected footage of you.
Did you see me out there? I was standing there. I was there. But no, I mean, I was probably smiling watching him because you couldn't help it.
Yeah, exactly. He's a very, very likable guy. What I'm looking forward to is obviously this has been a weeks-long saga, a couple weeks in the making of getting Chicharito and now landing Chicharito and then hearing him speak and going a little bit into his background and watching his vlog and all these different things. So it's been exciting. Today was the Chicharito show today. I'm excited for the next steps because now this is done. You could tell that they pulled their foot off the gas on other signings to get this deal done. So now I'm just looking forward to our next steps, getting on the field, getting training, who are going to be those depth pieces. That's what I'm excited. I think we could kind of close the chapter on the Chicharito saga. He's going to be a great addition and someone who's going to be a lot of fun to watch and to cover. But I'm excited. I'm excited that we can close the chapter on this book.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. February 8th, open training. Victoria Block debuts. I saw pictures of Victoria Block today. Actually, if you go on my Instagram, you could see that. I took some videos. I took a picture. The grass berm looks like it's being replanted or redone. So that's all dirt right now. The seats that were there, obviously you saw the video that the Galaxy put out where it was coming out. Well, that stuff is expected to go back in here pretty shortly. So all that stuff is sort of planned. I will tell you this. I have one more update before we go, just on something that people have been asking, and I will tell you at least where it stands right now. This isn't official, but I'll sort of let you know how it goes. Whenever Zlatan Ibrahimovic showed up, that they basically closed trainings. People weren't allowed to stand there, weren't allowed to go get autographs, which had sort of been a thing. It was never quote unquote allowed. It just wasn't disallowed, and so you could go get autographs and stuff. And eventually that eased towards the end of his tenure there. It was like, oh, you can go there and get it done.
They have a system in place.
They do. With Chicharito, I sort of asked the same thing. I was like, hey, are you guys going to shut it down for Javier? Because there's probably going to be a lot of people. And right now, it seems at least that there is a bullpen area that is able to be there for fans to be able to sign. So if you are thinking about coming out to training, I would suggest that you try it. Yeah. It's one of the coolest things I think you can do. Just listen to the security people that are there, and you shouldn't have any issues with that.
And I think that's the smart move by the organization as well, is because people are going to show up whether you tell them to or you tell them not to. So organize it. Set up a bullpen, set up an area, hire security, get it ready to go, because people are going to show up anyway. So just organize it in a way so the players are safe, fans are safe, and everyone is able to get what they need.
I think it's interesting as well. There weren't a ton of fans there today, but I was talking to some of the security, and they're like, we imagine Saturday is going to be a little bit different, right? Saturday and Sunday.
The open training. And if you made your way out to the airport and you maybe weren't happy with the glimpse that you got of Chicharito, I think that Victoria Block party is going to be the perfect opportunity, because the whole team's going to be there in open training, and it's more of a party atmosphere. So LAX isn't the best place to throw a party, but the Diggity is.
The Diggity
that's going to be much more conducive to having a fun time with your fellow LA Galaxy supporters.
In open training, the only thing that I hope for is that they play dodgeball. Did you see there was a hockey team?
Is that a thing?
No, it can be. I mean, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Oh, listen, the LA Kings play keep you up before the game. So.
They do. There was, I think it was either the New Jersey Devils, I think it was an East Coast team or something like that. They had an open training, and they were playing dodgeball on the ice. And I'm like,
I'm all about that.
That's what I want to see.
As a former day cap counselor, I could tell you, capture the flag would be a good one. Yeah, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah, it'll be.
Although all you need is
somebody get hurt,
torn ligament.
Yeah, I know.
From dodgeball.
Somebody puts out a shoulder or something like that. All right, I think that about does it. Anything else, Eric, that you got? Listen, I'll tell you right now. As far as rumors, we're trying to get back into that groove. There has been a big lull in the fact that Chicharito sucked all the air out of anybody who was doing anything. The Galaxy are back at it and are working and trying to figure those out. So we will do our best to try to figure out what is going on and who they're targeting. And I think you're going to see some of those pop up here in a little bit.
Yeah, it has.
No, I can hear you.
You can hear me. Yeah. It has gone quiet, and it seems like Chicharito, did take up. So that's why I said I was excited to move to those next steps, because, it's done. It's time to move on to our next targets.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Anything else, Eric? You good?
Well, I did want to mention last time I was on the show, I mentioned the LA Galaxy LA Kings night on February 20th. So a little bit of a snafu on the link. The link is no longer active, but it does list a ticket representative. So if you call the number, they'll still honor the price. They'll still honor the hat. You just have to give them a call. You can't do it through the link anymore. But just tell them you're with the Portuguese Hammers group or Eric's group, and they'll make it work.
They'll make it work.
Yeah,
you got it all set.
So a little bit different.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you tell people where they can find you, and we'll get on out of here.
Ooh, new music.
I know.
I love it.
It pumps you up.
You can find me on Twitter @GISHammer, and you can also find me on Instagram with the Professional Foul. That's @GalaxyProFoul. That's Galaxy PRO FOUL.
All right. And if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com for all of our coverage of the LA Galaxy, including the videos, including all of our written pieces. Larry Morgan has a great recap of both training on Monday and, of course, the Chicharito press conference as well. We'll have more stuff up there as we keep going. All right. I think that about does it for us right now. For Eric the Portuguese Hammer, I'm Josh Pato Guesman, and you've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. We'll catch you on Monday.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.